Fantastic. Good evening and welcome to this session on accounting to FP&A. Just as a ground rule, we are keeping everybody mute. You won't be able to unmute yourselves, but we will have a Q&A section at the end of this session where you can ask us unmute and ask us any question that you might have at that point in time. So let me just quickly share my screen and we can start. Just give me a second. Fantastic. So welcome to the session on accounting to FP&A. So Asif and I have been discussing and we have been wanting to do this session since a very long time. But finally, the day has come today where we came together and thought, let's put some session together. And that's how all of us are here. It's great to see the response that we have got. Thank you so much for that. What can you expect from the session today? Will we be able to make you a FP&A expert? Not really. It's not possible in the 90 to 120 minutes that we have today. But we will definitely give you a view of what happens in FP&A, what is the roadmap towards FP&A, and some steps what you can do today or in the next few weeks for you to get ready for FP&A roles. That is what we will be covering today. Okay, so let me just quickly start with the session and we can cover a little bit more detail as and when we progress. So first of all, thank you for your trust in this age of overloading of webinars and training programs and free sessions. You have taken out your valuable couple of hours with us to learn something new about FP&A. So thank you for your trust. Pat yourselves on the back for taking action. A statistic says that less than 3% of the people take active action to develop their careers. And no wonder 3% of the people you will see are leading the world's organizations. So that means the very fact that you have taken a step to learn something new, to stay with us together for a couple of hours today on the weekend shows a lot of determination on your part. So we request you to stay through till the end and make full use of this session that we have put together today. Yeah. Just a quick poll before we begin with. If you have to rate yourself on FP&A knowledge between 1 to 10, 10 being the best, okay, how much would you rate yourself? So just type your response in the chat box. Type your response in the chat box, please. Okay. I see a lot of 1s, 3s, 5s. 0, 6, 6, okay, 5, 7, 5, 5, 4, okay, fantastic. I think we got enough responses. Thank you for your participation. I think the general number that I'm seeing is somewhere between 0 to 5, okay, and a couple of 6s and 7s as well. So that is good. So what we have done today is designed the session for beginners. Okay, and we'll see how you can transition from an accounting to FP&A role. What are the steps that you can take? That is what we'll be focusing today. So what are we covering today? So first, we'll try and understand what is FP&A role, why it is so important, why is it gaining so much of importance today? What is the big deal about? Yeah, some of the key traits to become successful at FP&A roles. What are some of the skills that are required to become good at FP&A roles? There could be dozens of skills, but we will try and restrict ourselves to 4 core skills that we feel are important for being successful at FP&A roles. How does a typical FP&A month look like? What does an FP&A professional do? We might have heard, some stories about budgeting, forecasting, but does an FP&A professional do budgeting and forecasting throughout the year? That's not the case, right? So there are a number of things that FP&A teams support businesses on, right? So that is what we'll try and look at in the typical month section. End of it, we'll give you a small framework, a roadmap of how you can get closer towards FP&A roles and what are some of the actions that you can take right away for you to become closer to FP&A. Okay, cool. So moving forward, so why learn from us? just a quick introduction about me. So I'm a qualified chartered accountant from India. I've also completed my 1-year general management program from IIM Ahmedabad. Over the last 15 years, I've worked with diverse sectors like oil and gas, software, advertising, public relations, and communications. I've also worked with the shared services of a commodity trading company. I consider myself a sincere student of personal development. I keep investing in programs to develop myself, whether it is leadership or finance or technology, various topics. I've also mentored hundreds of chartered accountants and finance professionals through various initiatives on LinkedIn that I conduct. Over the past 4 years, I've been an online instructor. I've conducted tons and tons of live programs and online training and coaching programs. I've trained more than 5,000 finance professionals across various topics on finance, FP&A, finance leadership, and various other topics. Yeah. Asif, you're on mute.
Yeah, hi, my name is Asif Masani. I am a chartered accountant from India. So some of you may know me from LinkedIn. So I started my LinkedIn writing about 2 years back. So that started during COVID. And it was through one of these webinars I did about 3 years back. A lot of people started then reaching out to me on LinkedIn, asking me a lot of questions on what is FP&A, how do we get into it, how do we prepare for interviews. So it was one of one of these type of webinar I did 3 years back, which started it all. And then since then I've written about hundreds of articles on LinkedIn. After doing that, I also published a book all about FP&A, which is popular in the management accounting category. And very recently, I moved full time into training and coaching into FP&A along with Dhaval, and we have trained over about 1,000 professionals from accounting and audit, and people who are new to FP&A in FP&A roles. So that's a little bit about me. Back to you, Dhaval.
Yeah. Asif, there is a comment in the chat box that your voice is very low. So I'm not sure if it's a mic. I can hear you very clearly.
Okay. Okay.
I'm not sure if it's there were
How
a
about
couple of
others?
comments.
Can you let us know if I'm audible loudly, or is it very low voice? Okay. Let me see what I can do about it. Is it better now? Is it better now?
For me, it's still the same. I mean, I can hear you clearly. It was better before, is what Neelam says. I also thought so a little bit. Are you connected with the mic or are you using the
Let me go back.
computers?
So is it better now before the
Yeah, now I can. Yeah, better than before for
Okay,
me at
we'll
least.
keep this. We'll keep this. We'll keep this.
Okay.
And I'll
Okay, cool.
try to speak louder. I'll speak louder.
Okay, fantastic. So that is about us. I know you guys are putting in a lot of questions in the chat box, so hold your thoughts. We will have a separate section for Q&A. I saw questions from Excel to AI ML, so just hold your thoughts. Allow us to cover some of the topics that we have come, because see, all of you come from different backgrounds, right? So you might be very new to FP&A. Some of you might have already heard about it. Some of you might have progressed a little bit on it. So please allow us to cover the entire spectrum of the audience that is available with us today. And then we will definitely take the questions at the end. So to begin with, I wanted to share a small, short career story with you. When we are talking about topics like FP&A or any other finance-related topic, I always get questions in my career coaching sessions that, hey, I want to work in M&A, I want to work in FP&A, I want to work in treasury, I want to work in XYZ profiles. Yeah. But always remember that your career is going to be a long journey. It is going to be a 30, 40-year journey. And you might end up working in various different kind of profiles. Yeah. If you look at a typical if you look at a typical CFO, I can share one career story with you here. A friend of mine who did that articleship for 3 years, and after that, he joined one of our clients, and he started as a accounting manager. So he worked for as an accounting manager for a couple of years. Then they said there is a vacancy in payroll. So will you be able to take on the role as a payroll manager? He said, yes, I'll move on to payroll manager role. After that, this software company was actually setting up a subsidiary in the US. They asked him, are you ready to move to the US? We want somebody reliable to take care of the accounting function there in the US. So he moved to the US. The company sponsored him. When he was in US, he completed a CPA, and then he kept progressing in the same company. Partially, he took an operations role, and then became the CFO. And then finally, today he's the CFO. And so it's been a 15-year journey. Okay. So the point that I am trying to make here is that don't be too fixated about one profile. Okay. However, one needs to be ready in their careers to accept the opportunities that are being thrown at them. That is where this session comes into play today. So when and how you will get your FP&A role is one thing, but for you to be ready with it, are you ready for an FP&A role is what we will focus today. Readiness is what we are trying to achieve today through this session. Okay, so that was the story that I wanted to quickly share with you guys. Okay, just give a second. Yeah. So why FP&A is so important today? So if you look at a typical CFO's office, okay, you will see a number of functions and roles reporting into the CFO. There could be a financial reporting team. There could be a M&A team, taxes, treasury, supply chain finance. There could be a number of different kind of finance and accounting roles reporting into the CFO. Okay. One aspect is that when you become a CFO, okay, you don't pick and choose. You cannot say, hey, Mr. Tax Manager, don't report to me. I don't understand taxes. Hey, Mr. Treasury, don't report to me. I don't understand taxes. No, everybody will come and look to you, towards you for guidance. And if you don't know something, then as a team, as a company, you go and reach out to the experts or consultants which are available outside of the company. Okay. And each of these activities, each of these roles have a specific deliverable, right? So financial reporting team is responsible for preparing financial statements, notes to accounts, getting the statutory and internal audit done, all of that stuff. Taxes team is concerned about filing the returns, your direct taxes, your indirect taxes, all of that stuff. Treasury team maintains banking relationships, making sure that the working capital of the company is adequate. All of these things are important from from a treasury standpoint. Now, amidst all this chaos, amidst all these different kind of activities, who is keeping the track on the performance of the business? Who is telling the CFO, who is telling the business leaders in the company that the company is running in a financially sound way? All the products that we are selling at a profit. All the activities that we are carrying out are being done in a financially viable way. Right? That is where FP&A team comes into play. The main role of FP&A is to provide timely and accurate insights to the CFO and other senior business leaders in the company to take informed and prudent financial decisions. Let me repeat that. The main role of FP&A is to provide timely and accurate insights to the CFO and other business leaders in the company so that they can take informed and prudent financial decisions. That is where FP&A team comes into play. That's why FP&A, you will see, enjoys this unique position of sitting very close to the CFO role. Okay. Now, if you know FP&A will become a CFO, maybe, may not be, who knows. Okay. But when you become a CFO, performance of the business is what is expected from you to understand. Okay. You will naturally be expected to understand the performance of the business and coach the CEO, coach the other business leaders in the company to improve the performance of the business. Okay. And how will you be able to do that? You will be able to do that only if you have the right kind of analysis, the right kind of workings, the right kind of insights being given to you as a CFO. That is where FP&A team comes into play. Okay. So the main role of FP&A is to provide insights. Now, I'll quickly touch upon where does FP&A fit into the company. So if you look at a large company, there could be hundreds of different kind of accounting and finance roles. Now, broadly, you can classify them into three different sections. One is compliance oriented. The other one is business finance or commercial oriented. And then all those things which don't fit into bucket 1 and 2, you can classify them as specialty finance functions. Now, in the accounting function, you will have activities like preparation of financial statements, notes to accounts, getting the statutory audit done, looking at your profit and loss account, your balance sheet, filing your tax returns and other statutory compliances. And all of us who come from an accounting background, who have done our graduation in accounting or CA, CMA, CPA, or whatever the primary qualification may be, we have a fair understanding of this bucket. We know how does a profit and loss account look like. We know how a notes to accounts look like. We know what are some of the compliances that a company needs to file with. The second bucket is the management reporting, or what we call the decision support, or FP&A teams. Here, some of the activities are budgeting, forecasting, different types of analysis like revenue, cost, margins, different types of profitability like customer profitability, branch profitability, product profitability, region level profitability, working capital management, dealing with contracts, pricing. All of these things are commercial aspects and not really accounting oriented. These are commercial aspects that are carried out by FP&A teams. And they might be called with different names. They might be called as commercial finance manager, business partner, FP&A, business controller. There are a number of designations that are being used for this commercial side. Now, this is what we'll be talking about today. This is our focus for today. Okay, and all those things which do not fit into bucket 1 and bucket 2 are expert tasks. It could be treasury, raising funds for the company, investment management, structured finance, supply chain finance is a specialty again, project finance. There could be some technology profiles as well, where you could be acting as a functional consultant. Now, who's a functional consultant? A functional consultant is somebody who acts as a bridge between the technical team and the business team and make sure that the business teams are armed with proper reports and everything. Yeah, that's what a functional consultant does. It's like a techno-commercial kind of a role. If you are somebody who has deep interest in technology, then you can look for a functional consultant kind of a role as well. Yeah. So this is the broad range of finance and accounting roles that you can get out there. Now, if you are specifically working for a large company, then your role could be very specific. Your role could be very specific, and you could be just doing, let's say, budgeting for a certain branch or a profitability analysis for a certain region. Yeah. But if you are in a small to medium-sized organization, then your roles could be pretty blended. You could be the one who's preparing financial statements in the company, and you're the same person who will be looking at banking relationships. You could also be looking at profitability and budgeting and forecasting as well. So if you're in a small to medium-sized company, then there will be a lot of overlap, and you could your role could be pretty blended. Yeah, it will not be very specific. But however, if it's a large company, and even if you get a partial analysis kind of a role, that is still fine. You should still take it. Okay. At some point in time, it will evolve into a larger FP&A role where you will have full P&L visibility. Yeah, that would be my take on this. So any analysis focused roles that you can get, grab them, take them, whenever you get that chance. Cool. So what is FP&A? If I have to dissect this section, financial planning and analysis, into two parts for better understanding, one would be financial planning, where we have and the other one is financial analysis. So financial planning is all about future-looking function of FP&A. This is where we talk about preparing a business plan, budgeting, preparing forecast and rolling forecast. All these kind of activities come under the financial planning side of FP&A. And then there is financial analysis, which is all about analyzing the ongoing performance of the business, where we do different kind of variance analysis, where we compare different figures like actual versus budget, actual versus forecast, current month versus previous month, current year versus previous year, year to date, current year versus year to date last year. All these kind of different comparisons are being done. Okay. And we do different kind of analysis and provide commentaries or reports to the management at regular intervals. Okay, so that they can take informed decisions. Then there could also be feasibility studies, like whether we should expand to a certain new geography or no, whether we should install a new plant or no, whether we should make or buy kind of a decision also needs to be evaluated. So all these kind of analysis are carried out by FP&A teams, and that forms the financial analysis side of FP&A. So financial planning, which is future looking, and financial analysis, which is all about analyzing the ongoing performance of the business. So Asif,
Yeah. Am I audible now? Is it better now? I changed the mic.
yes, I can hear you clearly.
Okay, great. So we talked about the bridge in one of the uh, previous slides. So let's talk more about that. So how is FP&A a bridge between the business team and senior management? So on this slide, you see business teams on the left. So business teams are teams like sales team, marketing team, product engineering team in different companies. There might be functional teams, operations, supply chain, HR. So these are all business or function teams. So they are on the left, and on the right you see senior management, which is typically CEO and one level below. So CEO, head of marketing, head of product, CFO, all these people are senior leadership in the company. So what FP&A does is it acts as a bridge between the business teams and the senior leadership. So let's take an example. So if FP&A team is preparing the budget, what they will do is they will collect inputs from the teams on the left and then refine it, review it, and then get it, uh, present it to the senior management on the right. So that is one example. They do this for most activities. So if you take an example of management reports, again same thing. They will collect data inputs from people on the left and then present it to senior management on the right. So that's how they act as a bridge between the business teams and the senior management. Am I still not audible? I see one or two comments yet. How about others?
We
Can you
can
hear
hear
me?
you, but it's not the best sound quality actually. So I
Okay,
don't know.
okay, okay, perfect. So
We can hear you though. We can hear you. Yeah,
let's move ahead.
cool. So when we talk about FP&A, there could be tons of different kind of activities that are carried out by FP&A teams. Yeah, and in this, I would say broadly, you will find four set of activities which are very common in FP&A roles. No matter what company you go into, no matter what is the size of the company, you will definitely find these four set of activities. That is your budgeting, forecasting, and under management commentaries, you have variance analysis and profitability analysis. So budgeting is like you're preparing your annual business plan to find out what is your estimated revenue, estimated costs, estimated profits for the upcoming financial year. Forecast is all about tracking the ongoing performance of the business. For example, if you are closing the books of month for January, so it means January actuals plus 11 months of forecast. So if you're closing the books for February, then it will be Jan and Feb actuals plus 10 months of forecast. So that is what forecasting is all about. And depending on the size of the company, it is either prepared on a monthly basis or on a quarterly basis. And at regular intervals, after the month close, after the quarterly close, you will prepare and publish a number of management reports. One could be for a business unit head, one could be for for the CFO, one could be for the CEO. There could be different kind of commentaries that you would be preparing. Don't necessarily confuse these. These are not necessarily large, fancy-looking dashboards in Power BI or any of these tools. It could be very simple report in an Excel sheet. It could be a very simple one-slider report that you could be sending to certain business unit heads, depending on how and who is the user and the stakeholder. So these are some of the activities that are carried out by FP&A teams. And we explain all of these in detail in our courses or in our masterclass section. But I just quickly wanted to briefly cover that these are some of the activities that are carried out by FP&A teams. Now, how does one get into FP&A without any experience? So, Asif, you want to share a few things here?
Yeah. So this is a question that comes very often. So how do we get into FP&A? I don't have any FP&A experience. So let's cover this. So we'll share some of the ways people get into FP&A. This is not exhaustive, but this is probably 90% of the paths that people take to get into FP&A roles. So if we can go one by one. So the best way would be for somebody who has less than 5 years of experience is either through an internship. So they can get into an FP&A role early as an intern, or as an analyst, senior analyst, assistant manager. So those are some sort of roles in very big organizations with say 5,000 plus employees. These organizations have big FP&A departments, usually 200 plus people in the FP&A team, and they hire FP&A interns, they hire FP&A freshers almost every quarter. So they hire like 5 FP&A interns, freshers every quarter. So that's a good way for somebody who has less than 3 to 5 years of experience. So that's one way. The next one is internal mobility. So if you are working for a large organization into accounting, into controller roles, or into audit, into taxation, any other finance roles, the next best way to get into FP&A role is through internal mobility. Most companies have openings for FP&A roles along with publishing it externally. They also publish it in internal job portals for internal mobility. So once you complete 1.5 2 years, which is a criteria for internal mobility, and if you have FP&A knowledge, which is you can do that through courses, to books, to certificates. So if you have the knowledge and if you can identify transferable skills, internal mobility is one of the best options to get into an FP&A role. The third option is hybrid role. So most people, if they cannot get into FP&A from the beginning or through internal mobility, what they do is they take up a hybrid role with a smaller company or a mid-sized company. Maybe this company is 500 to 2,000 people, not a very big company. They get into a smaller finance team, which is 5 to 6 people, but that finance team works on both FP&A and accounting. So they get the accounting, so they get the FP&A experience along with working in the accounting team. And somebody needs to prepare a budget even if the company is small, right? Somebody needs to do the forecast even if the company is small. So they can get into those teams, get some experience doing the FP&A function in a smaller team, and then once they have that on their CV for a couple of years, they can move to a bigger organization or to a different core FP&A role. Another way, what recently what has been observed is industry or domain expert. So if you are an expert in one particular industry, even if you have worked in audit or accounting for say 5 years, but you know the industry in and out, uh, or if you are an expert in a particular tool, say for example a budgeting tool, or say Power BI, or say financial modeling or storytelling, any of the skills that are required for FP&A, if you are very good at those skills, then it's a lot easier to get into a FP&A role even after 3 or 5 years. So these are some of the common routes to FP&A roles. Back to you, Dhaval. Okay, so let's cover this as well. So how do you approach this? So what you have to do is, so for all of those four routes to work, the steps are very similar. So first of all, you have to get an understanding of the FP&A role in and out. So you should thoroughly know what does FP&A people do, from budgeting to forecasting to management reporting to presentations and data storytelling, to be able to manage relationships with finance, I mean, with other business partners that they deal with. So they should know what FP&A role is in and out, and you can do that through various courses, books, reaching out to people who have worked in FP&A. So through all those things, you can build that understanding of the FP&A role. That might not take long. It might take maybe a month or two of studying, research, and doing your homework. So that's the first step. Once you do that, then you will realize what are the transferable skills that you can bring to the FP&A role. So once you understand the FP&A role, you will be able to look at your present role, and you might even realize that you are doing some FP&A functions, but you did not even know that those are FP&A. So you can bring out certain skills that are transferable into FP&A, but that is possible only if you do the first step. So you have to, in the second step, you have to tailor your resume for FP&A roles using FP&A skills, and we go into detail into our program. But at this point, the second step, let's understand, is to tailor your resume for FP&A roles. Now, once you do that, uh, you will start getting interviews. It will not happen overnight, but maybe one interview a quarter, or maybe two interviews in 6 months. So you'll start getting FP&A interviews. At that point, you have to be prepared for the interview. So it will not, when the interview comes, it will not give you a lot of time. So it will be 2 days from now, or 3 days from now, or next week. So that will not be enough time for you to understand the FP&A role and prepare yourself. So ideally, what we suggest is you keep yourself prepared, and whenever that opportunity comes, you should be able to, you will have a much higher chance of clearing and getting into an FP&A role if you are prepared. And once you land into the FP&A role, uh, we'll talk about this later. So what you should be doing into the first 90 days. So we have some material at the end. Okay, it's here only. So, once you get into the FP&A role, these are some things that you need to do. So, assume that you followed the step 1, 2, 3, and you landed a FP&A role. So, these are some of the things which we recommend that you should be doing in the first 3 months of your role. So, understanding the business is most important because you will be dealing with business people. You will be working on reports that requires commentaries on the business, not on the numbers, but on the business. So understanding of the business is most important. Other steps would be managing the information overload. So when you join into an FP&A role, you will be bombarded with a lot of information, a lot of reports, a lot of files that you need to take care of, and it's not easy initially when you get it when you're new to that role. So make sure you have a proper system to document all of those files. Maybe use an Excel tracker, maybe use a Notion. Make sure that you have a proper system to be able to document all of the information that is coming your way, because you'll not be able to absorb it immediately. You will take time over the next couple of weeks or next few months, but you should be able to document it well so that you can refer it later on. Patience and learning, so these are important. So first 3 months you might feel like you are out of place because there is a different mindset required. You need to learn quickly on the job. So having patience is the key. I've seen few people who get into the FP&A role, but because they are not patient for the first 3, 4, 5 months, uh, and when you get into a new role, you are typically not given the best work. You typically are given a lot of number crunching work, a lot of slide preparation. Just because you are new, you don't know a lot of things. But once that initial phase is gone, which is probably 3 to 6 months, then you start building that trust with your team, and then you start getting higher quality work, which is getting into the budget, getting into the forecast, being able to present it to senior people. But you have to need to have that patience for the first 3 to 6 months to be able to do that. And while you do that, you also have to keep continuously learning. Another thing that you should be doing is listening to your managers in terms of understand from them what they are wanting you to do, and at least deliver that what they're expecting you to. If you can do that, I mean, if you can exceed those expectations, even better, but at least do whatever your seniors or manager are expecting you to do. If you can, this is only if you can, if you are able to manage all of that information overload, if you are able to meet the expectations, try delivering something valuable early. So early value delivery is something that you should be trying. So maybe identify a problem in one of the processes that you're working on and try to fix that. Maybe identify a report that is required by some stakeholder and start building that. So delivering early value is also a part. I mean, that will give you some extra advantage over others in your FP&A role. If you can have all of the points out, I'll just quickly go through them. So while you do all of this, building relationships with different teams is also important. So because your work will depend a lot on the other people in the company, it's important that you start meeting new people, you start getting to know what others are doing in the organization, how can you help them, how they can help you. So starting meeting new people who are your stakeholders or who are related to you, your role is going to be very important. Similarly, reaching out to seniors for help, because this is your first FP&A role, you've never worked in FP&A before, but there are seniors in your team or in your organization who have done that before. A lot of people hesitate to do that, but what I've seen is most people are ready to help if the person approaches it the right way. So if you can, and if I mean, what highly recommended that you reach out to seniors for help. Once you are there for 2 months, then you should start setting clear expectations from your senior, from your CFO, from your manager. Okay, now I've been here for 2 months, what are your expectations from me? And keep that communication open. So meet them every month or every quarter, depending on how senior your manager is, and tell them, okay, this is what we discussed last time as the expectation, this is what I've been doing in the last 2 months. Give me some feedback, how can I improve? What is your opinion? What should I be doing? What could I be doing better? And keep that communication open. And finally, know your numbers in terms of uh, if you're managing, say, one particular product or one particular region, you should be knowing the revenues, expenses. I mean, in your sleep, because that is what will be expected once you complete the 3 months. Anybody from the business will reach out to you and ask you, okay, what is the revenue for last quarter? How are we doing on the sales for the last 2 weeks? So those are some things that you will need to put yourself in the businessman's shoes or in the CEO shoes, and treat it as if that is your business, and know those numbers in and out. So these are some things that can
So
help you when you get into the FP&A role in the first few months.
absolutely, I think these are great steps, and like Asif said, understanding the business, knowing your numbers, all these are very, very critical from a business partnering standpoint. That's where accounting role is different from an FP&A role. So where accounting is more on the back end side, where you are taking care of the documentation, taking care of the entries, whereas FP&A is a little bit more has a little bit more cross-functional interaction. You will always need to build stronger relationships and support the business teams on what data and insights they require. Cool. So what are some of the key traits to become successful at FP&A? So while there could be dozens of different kind of traits, but I'll just stress upon 4 points here. One is business acumen. I think we have stressed enough on this. Your ability to think like a businessman is very, very important. Understand the business model of the company, where the company is making money. How are we stacked against the competitors? One thing that I've always done is that the moment I joined a new company, I immediately find out who are the next top 3 competitors of my company, and then I start following their LinkedIn page, observe their websites, read their annual reports, because I want to quickly understand about the industry as soon as possible. The sooner I'm able to understand the industry and how the business works, the easier it will be for me to have conversations with the business teams. When I'm asking for a sales forecast number to a business guy, to the business lead, it will be very easy for him to say, you don't understand the business. So that is where your understanding will come into play. Say, no, I have studied the business. I understand how the company makes money. So will you help me understand this part, or will you help me understand that part? That's where it will be easier for you to have strong conversations with the cross-functional teams. Analytical skills. See, analytical skills is your ability to simply correlate different set of numbers in the that are given to you and come up with some meaningful insights. For example, if I tell you the marketing budget of the company is $5 million. Okay. Now, this number in isolation will not do anything, right? It will not tell you the entire story. But if I tell you that the marketing budget is $5 million, which is 5% of sales, which means the sales are $100 million, and 5% of sales we are spending on the marketing activities. Okay. Now, this is giving you some information. Now, if I give you one more insight, if I tell you that the marketing spend in the last 3 years, average marketing spend has been 3% of sales. Okay. Now, this is where your mind will start asking a question that, hey, this time it is 5% of sales, but last 3 years average is 3% of sales. Now, you need to go back to the marketing director, understand why are we spending extra 2% of sales on the marketing spend? Is it something short term? Is it something that we are taking an initiative now, which will help us for probably 2-3 years down the line? So these kind of questions will start flowing only when you try and find out the hidden messages in these numbers, the hidden trends, patterns in these numbers, and then come up with the right set of questions to ask the business teams. Cross-functional relationships, I think Asif has stressed on this enough that it's very important to build strong cross-functional relationships. You will be dealing with sales teams, you will be dealing with operations team, where you will need to either collect or provide data to them at regular intervals. Okay. And you will be able to do that efficiently only if you have stronger cross-functional relationships. I have seen a number of times, the sales guy or the sales vice president has taken me for a ride when I was a junior, that I used to ask him for some sales estimates, and he used to say, okay, I'll send it to you by evening. I'll send it to you by evening. And he used to never send it. That was never his priority. And I used to get escalations. I used to get, strong comments from the CFO, right? So that's where your ability to build these relationships come into play. IT and data literacy. Now, again, when it comes to data literacy, basic understanding of averages, standard deviations, correlation, regression, these are very, very important to understand large chunks of data. and you can identify patterns, observations, insights from these set of data, and then that is what you can provide to the business teams to make certain decisions. IT literacy, by IT literacy, I mean you don't necessarily need to be a Power BI expert or an Excel expert or build something very fancy in Excel. Basic Excel functions are definitely expected. On top of that, if you know Power BI or Tableau or any of these tools, it's a good to have. Okay. However, if you come to know that your company is using some tool, by the way, today there are more than different 100 varieties of tools available, FP&A tools available out in the market. Now, once you understand which tool is being used by the company, then I think you should be able to, you should spend some time to get some advanced knowledge in that. Let's say, for example, once you join a company and you notice that your company is using Power BI extensively, then you should definitely invest time to understand Power BI in a deeper way, and that is where you will be able to support the business with much better visualizations and data storytelling. Yeah, so that's about the skill sets that are required to be successful at FP&A roles. Now, how does a typical month look like for an FP&A professionals? We talk a lot about budgeting and forecasting. Do we continuously keep doing budgeting and forecasting for the full year? Not really. How does a typical FP&A month look like? Asif, you want to cover week by week?
Yeah. So budgeting is one part, as Lawal mentioned, which is usually happens once in a year. So mostly if it's a calendar year that the company is following, it happens during August, September, October. Those 3 months are budget months. But other than that, there is a fairly set calendar that most FP&A teams follow. So before we get into this, I want to give you a couple of disclaimers. So this is in no way a standard FP&A month. So it is different for different companies. It depends on FP&A team's maturity. So if the FP&A team is new, a lot of things happening in week 1 year might happen in week 3, and gradually and slowly they will start improving processes. They'll start getting better and better, and maybe after 2 years, 3 years, they'll be get at a situation which is here on the screen. Similarly, if the company is new, if the company is a startup company, if the company it has itself been there for 2 years and it's a small team, then again the calendar will look completely different. So what we have done is we have taken hundreds of examples of FP&A calendars, and what we are putting together is the best practice, or what happens in probably 50-60% of the companies, which is most common. So that is one. Second is how we read this is week 1 is all talking about the calendar week 1. So what do you do from the 1st of the month to the 7th of the month in this case, in this example? So right now we are in March, right? So week 1 would be first week of March, where we'll talk about all the numbers or all the things that happened in February. So although we are in week 1 of March, all the discussions, reporting will happen for the month of February. So those are the two things you should keep in mind. Number one, this is not a standard. This is the best practice or the average calendars from hundreds of companies. And second is we are talking about, in this case, say for example March. So we are in the first week of March, and then we are talking about the February deliverables. So let's start with week 1. So what happens during the first few days, which is typically the first 4 or 5 days of the month, when the books of the company are still yet to close, and the accounting team or the controller team is working on closing the books, the management will not wait. The senior management will not wait for knowing the performance of the last month. Okay, so they will want to know the performance of February even before the books of February are closed, which will happen probably 5th of March or 7th of March in many cases. So what FP&A team does is they prepare a flash report. So it can be as simple as 25 days of February actuals and then 5 days of estimate. So it can be as simple as that, or they can use some other scientific way of getting you the February performance, which is typically done for 1 or 2 key areas, not for all the areas in the P&L. So typically done for revenues and maybe 1 or 2 bigger costs, which the management wants to see early in the month. So that's a flash report. After the month books are closed, so after, say for example, February books are closed, the FP&A team will review along with the accounting team how the month has gone by. So they will review the BVA, is what most people call it. What is the variance versus the budget? What is the variance versus the forecast? How are the actuals looking like? So all of these things will happen when they review the month with the accounting team. And once that is done, once the books are closed, once the accounting team's review is done with the FP&A, then the FP&A team is in a position to start delivering on the monthly reports. So all the monthly reports that are due to different stakeholders be start will be started after the books are closed. They might be working for report like 20 different reports for different stakeholders, and they can do that once the books are closed. That typically happens end of week 1 and beginning of week 2. So that's overall week 1. So it's mostly flash reporting, getting the accounting books reviewed, and then doing the actual reporting for the last month. So that's how the first week looks like. So moving on to the second week. Second week is mostly if you do the forecast on. So many companies do a forecast on a monthly basis. Many companies do a forecast on a quarterly basis. So if your company is doing a forecast on a monthly basis, then you will be doing the forecast for the next. So if you are in March right now, so you will be having 2 months of actuals, which is January and February, and then you will be doing 10 months of forecasts. So you must have already done one forecast last month, which would be January actuals, and 11 months of forecast. So you will go to that forecast, revisit if any changes are required based on. So you will actualize the February numbers, and then you will revisit March to December again and see if any changes are required to the forecast. So typically what happens in a forecast cycle is a finance team will first update it based on the knowledge that they have, based on the understanding they have, based on the data that they have collected with different stakeholders. So they will update it themselves, which is a preliminary forecast. Then they will review that forecast with the business team. So if you are working on a sales forecast, then you will sit with the sales manager or the sales head and ask him to give his her inputs on the forecast that you have drafted, and then you will get some more inputs, and then you will refine the forecast, and then you will get it reviewed from the CFO or the head of finance, whoever is reviewing the forecast. So first step is you get it reviewed from the business side, who you are working with. Then you make some changes, get it reviewed with the CFO. Once the CFO says okay, then you lock the forecast, and then you use it as a comparison for the next reporting period. So when you are in week 1 for April, this will be one point of comparison of actuals versus budget is one, and then actual versus forecast is another point of comparison. So typically most companies spend the second week of the month in the forecast. Again, if the company, if the FP&A team is new, they might be not doing forecast in until week 3, or they might be doing it only once a quarter. So once the FP&A team has matured, usually they start doing the forecast once a month. Also depends on the nature of the industry. If the industry or the company is in an industry which is very stable, doesn't require a monthly forecast, then they may not do it. But if the company is in a industry which is changing every other month, and there are a lot of changes happening, they may need to do the forecast every month as well. So that was second week, which was mostly into forecasting for the remaining outer months. Week 3 is slightly lighter in terms of there are there are not a lot of BAU activities in terms of regular deliverables. So week 3 is where FP&A teams would typically spend time on, say, a automation project, which will help them in the week 1, week 2, in the coming month or in the coming quarters. They may spend more time speaking to the business, although they have to speak to the business continuously, but this is a time where they may schedule more meetings. uh, so they may spend time on uh, I mean uh, interacting with business more during this, because they have slightly more bandwidth here. Recharges and allocations, we talk more about this in the program. So there are certain costs which which you may want to allocate. So there are certain common costs which for reporting purpose you may want to allocate it to your group company. So you do all of those activities. Working capital management is another. So you look at inventory, debtors, uh, uh, payables, all of the working capital items, and see how those are looking like. meeting business partners I mentioned. So keeping a check on risk and opportunities. So the forecast that you submitted in week 2, is there any material risk is that has arisen during the last 1 week or during the last 2 weeks after you've submitted the forecast? So you have to keep an eye if there are any big risk or big opportunities. A meaning of risk and opportunities in simple words is whatever you had submitted in the forecast, has anything happened that can materially impact that number? So if anything has happened, then you may want to highlight it as a risk and opportunity, which you do that on a weekly basis. So that's week 3, which is mostly ad hoc items like automation, supporting business, recharges and allocations, and keeping a pulse check on the business. And then you again come back to week 4, which is sort of preparation for week 1. So you start doing the flash reports end of the month, so probably end of last few days of the month, so maybe end of the week 4. You help or you collaborate with the accounting teams for closing the books. Usually, I have seen FP&A people help the accounting with accruals, prepaid, because they are closer to the business. They may know if a particular, so because they know what are the budgets and what have been the actual spends, they may be able to tell the accounting team, okay, even if the invoice has not been received, they have spent this or they have done this expense during the month because it was there in the budget and I saw that going through. So you may need to book a accrual. So all of those things happen during the last week of the month where they work together with accounting and help them close the books. And then again, it starts with week 1. So this is how a typical FP&A calendar looks like. Uh, it is fairly, it is partly structured in terms of some activities are happening every month, but some activities, as you see in week 3, are ambiguous. So those are, those are different flavors you see in FP&A, some structure and some ambiguity. Okay, I see a question. So we will take the question at the end. So just for this, because it is related to this, what we'll do is, I'm just reading at the chat. Just give me one moment. Okay, we will take the questions at the end. So what we'll do is I'll scan through the questions and we'll take it at the end. Dhaval, if we can move to the next section. We'll talk about the flash report in detail maybe at the end once we have time. So we'll go into that. Okay, I need to unmute you 1 second. See if you can unmute you now.
Yeah.
Okay.
I muted myself and then I couldn't unmute.
No
Cool.
problem.
Okay, I think there was one question about explaining about flash report. Can you touch upon flash report a little bit? So you want to just quickly cover that in 30 seconds?
Yeah. So flash report is nothing but your so you decide, okay, which area you want to do the flash report. Say for example revenues. So it'll be, so you're doing the flash report not after the books are closed. So you may be doing it on the 29th of the month or maybe 2nd of the month when the books of accounts are still in process to close. So you will not have the final number. So what you will have is a estimate, which might be say 25 days of actual numbers based on some report, some data source, and then you will have to estimate, okay, what are the what usually happens during the last 5 days, looking at the historicals. So you may be able to, you should be able to put together a good estimate which may be 98% accurate or maybe 97% accurate for you be able to share with the business team. So it can be for any area, but usually people do it for revenues and maybe 1 or 2 key expenses.
Wonderful. Cool. So if you are specifically new to an FP&A role, so how can you quickly take control of your FP&A role? So this is where the FP&A success mantra framework comes into play. And if once you join an FP&A role, I think 3 things is what you need to focus on. One is understand the organization structure and where you fit into the organization. Are you in a regional role? Are you in a business unit? Are you at a central FP&A role, at the corporate FP&A role? What is your exact role? And that also then determines who are your stakeholders. Like, is it the business unit head that you will be, you will have a functional, a dotted line reporting to, with a functional reporting to CFO? Or is it the sales team that you will be working with? Is it the HR team that you will be working with? So depending on where you fit into the org structure, you will have to then manage the expectations of your stakeholders. And the third thing is industry KPIs. Every industry tracks different set of KPIs and may have different, some KPIs are very important for some industries, some KPIs are not. So you will have to understand what are the top 4 or 5 KPIs for your business, and then see how they are computed. And what are KPIs? Basically, key performance indicators. Like, for example, in a services business, let's say a software services business, understanding the staff cost percentage is very important. Right? Staff cost could be anywhere between 40 to 60% of your sales. Yeah. But in a manufacturing company, understanding the cost of goods sold is important, because your cost of goods sold could be anywhere between 60 to 70%, or your raw material cost could be 50%, or raw material cost could be 30-40% of your sales value. So depending on the industry that your company is working with, you need to understand the KPIs. For example, in the hospitality industry, occupancy ratio of hotel rooms, it becomes a very important KPI. Everything is determined on the industry KPIs. So these are the 3 things that you will need to focus on. And if you are able to get a grip on these 3 things in the first few weeks of your FP&A role, then you will be able to do better, and you will be able to ask better questions to the cross-functional teams. Cool. Now, so how does one build an FP&A career? So it's not just one step, right? So if I do step A, I'll get into FP&A role, and then life is set. It's not that straightforward, right? So how does one build an FP&A role? And I will not lie to you, it will take time for you to build a successful FP&A career. It may take a few years. Okay. But here is the quick framework on how you can build your FP&A careers. Your first focus needs to be on conceptual understanding. Are you able to understand revenue, costs, gross margins, gross profit, net profit, fixed cost, variable cost, things like budgeting, forecasting, what is the impact of that? What is the variance analysis? As long as you are able to understand the conceptual understanding, focus on the conceptual understanding, then you have a solid foundation. On top of this, what is important is the 3 pillars. That is your soft skills. Because we mentioned in the session before that FP&A role is all about cross-functional interaction. You will either be collecting data from cross-functional teams, or you will be providing insights to different set of cross-functional teams. So your skills to communicate different types of data, different types of insights is very, very important. Then comes your experience. You might start with one industry. Okay. Then what is important is that at the senior levels, you may have to associate yourself with only 1 or 2 industries. Like, for example, if you're working in a service company, you cannot suddenly switch from a service company to a trading or a manufacturing company. That may not be the best career choice at senior levels, because you can leverage your experience. If I am a software company CEO and if my CFO resigns, okay, where can I find a CFO? The next best thing is I'll find out who are the CFOs of my next 3 competitors, and I'll reach out to them on LinkedIn. And I'm sure if I offer hike to one of them, they will come and join me, right? So that is where your industry experience comes into play. Once you have good 5, 7, 8 years of experience in a certain industry, then maybe look for a progression with a competitor, okay, in the same industry. That's where you will be able to leverage your experience in a much better way, either in your industry or a related industry. For example, if you're working for an automotive company, then maybe an auto ancillary company will still take you. Maybe an automotive components company will still take you. So that is where you will be able to leverage your experience. The other step is tools. Again, I would say it all starts with Excel, but if you are able to understand other tools, like Power BI, Tableau, that'll make your life easier. Now, will you get a FP&A role because of Power BI? Maybe, may not be, but it's not, tools are not a substitute for conceptual understanding, but they are definitely an aid for your FP&A role. They'll definitely make your life easier in an FP&A role, and they'll increase your chances to get an FP&A role. And once you get that FP&A role, then improve, lead, and adapt. You'll always need to keep improving yourself. Look at what tools are available in the market. Make your life easier through automations. And once you are able to deliver on all of these, at some point in time, you will move from an analyst role to a manager role or a director kind of role, where you will be handling a number of analysts, or you will be handling a team of FP&A professionals. Leadership skill would be something that is required at that point in time. And then finally, be adaptable. Technology and business models always keep changing. 10 years ago, some of the business models that we know today were not existent. The Amazon, the Flipkarts of the world have only come into existence about last 10, 12 years ago, and have gained importance, right? The internet-based business models have only come into existence in the last 5 years, right? So always keep yourself, I would say, flexible, and adapt yourself to the industry requirements, whether it is in terms of understanding technology or understanding business models or new age business models that are available out there. Cool. Now, knowing what we have discussed so far, okay, how many of you think there is a lot more to learn about FP&A? So obviously, we couldn't cover everything in the 60 to 90 minutes that we have for today's session. There are a number of steps in budgeting. There are a number of steps in forecasting. There are a number of steps in management reports that we won't be able to cover today. So how many of you think there is a lot more to learn about FP&A? I'm sure most of you will agree with me that there is a lot more to learn. And between Asif and I, we have more than 2 decades of FP&A experience, and we can definitely tell you that every day was a new learning. Every day we kept learning something new. How many of you feel that you will struggle to get there on your own? Now, without having a proper manager, without having a proper coach, without having a proper trainer, it will be very difficult to land an FP&A role. Even when we got our FP&A roles, and Asif can vouch this as well, that once even if we got our FP&A role, we struggled so much to understand about budgeting, about forecasting. We kept running here and there in various departments of who can help us, right? So that was the situation when we started FP&A roles. There were no online courses. There was no LinkedIn. There was no university or any institution that was teaching FP&A to us. So we learned on their own, and I can definitely tell you that it was a certain kind of a struggle. Now, depending on where you are in your FP&A journey, there are 3 options available for you today. Okay, one is the FP&A Foundations course. Now, if you have not made up your mind, and if you're somebody who's just exploring, let me see what is FP&A, I've still not decided if it is for me or no, then FP&A Foundations course is what you should try. Low ticket, low risk. You should try it out, see the content. It will give you enough knowledge to at least give interview for FP&A. I can assure you that is what you can try. Now, if you know a little bit about FP&A, and you're now ready to take on an FP&A role, you are actively looking for jobs, if you're actively hunting for roles available out there, then if you're somewhat ready, then I would say you can try out our 8 weeks FP&A Launchpad. This is a self-paced course, 12 hours of content, different kind of examples, concepts. Everything is discussed in the 8 weeks FP&A Launchpad course. Okay, and then there is a third level where you are absolutely sure that yes, FP&A is for me. I am serious about taking firm steps to get an FP&A role, probably in the next 6 months, 8 months time frame. Then I would say FP&A Masterclass is for you, which is our advanced program. And today I'll touch a little bit upon we'll touch a little bit upon our FP&A Masterclass program, which is our flagship program. So basically, FP&A Masterclass program is something which Asif and I collaborated, and we have curated, and we have already conducted 8 successful batches before. More than 300 people have been trained on FP&A, and we've got tons and tons of testimonials where people were able to land FP&A roles. A couple of them even were able to transition from a controller to a CFO kind of a role as well. And we are extremely happy and proud about the Masterclass program that we have been able to create. Now, you can enroll into Masterclass even if you're a beginner, even if you're just deciding whether you want to get into FP&A. Okay, you can enroll into Masterclass if you are just in that phase of giving interviews where you want to prepare for an FP&A interview. you think you know what is budgeting, but you're not very sure. You are not 100% sure about what is budgeting, what is forecasting, what kind of different management reports are out there. So if you want to take some firm steps for preparing for interviews, then Masterclass is for you. If you want to transition into an FP&A leader kind of a role, so you already have some experience, you already have 8-10 years of experience in accounting and controllership, but now you want to equip yourself with other aspects of a CFO's role, and FP&A will be one of them. That is where also you can enroll into the FP&A Masterclass. Now, what is covered in FP&A Masterclass? Essentially, there are 4 modules. Module 1 is about budgeting and forecasting, where we cover everything about preparation of annual budget, forecasting, the steps involved, case studies, and different components of budgeting as well, like revenue forecast, headcount, salaries, cost of goods sold, production. All of those things are covered. All of those things are covered and discussed with various examples in the budgeting and forecasting module. And then comes module 2, that is management reporting and analysis, where we share examples of different types of management reports prepared, different types of analysis, actual versus plan, actual versus forecast, and how do we present it to the management. All of that is discussed in management reporting and analysis. Storytelling and presentations. How can you be a better storyteller? You have data with you, you have a lot of insights with you, but how do you prepare an impactful presentation? How do you truly collaborate with the business and share the best insights in the least amount of time, in the best possible way? That is where we stress upon storytelling and presentations. If you are already if you think you are good at analysis, if you are already good at bringing, fantastic insights through your magic of Excel, but you still need to understand how do you present it to the management, this is where your module 3 comes into play. And module 4 is all about business partnering. Now, business partnering is where you truly collaborate with the business teams, whether it is cross-functional teams, like sales team, HR team, that's where you truly collaborate with the business teams and make sure that you reverse engineer certain partnership, you understand their needs, you help them automate a few things, you truly support them on the business with various kind of decisions. That is where business partnering comes into play. This is where you truly add value in your FP&A role on a day-to-day basis. This is beyond just providing analysis. This is where you become a coach. This is where you become, a kind of a partner with the business. That's what business partnering is all about. So 4 modules, and it is covered in 4 weeks. Okay. And through 8 different sessions, 2 hours each. The next batch is starting on March 9. And every Saturday, Sunday, we meet for 2 hours, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. IST. Okay. And we cover everything live, all the concepts, all the case studies, group discussions, everything is covered live. And it will be covered in 4 weeks. So 4 weeks is all the commitment that we need. And we can assure you that in these 16 to 18 hours of content that we covered, you will significantly move ahead in terms of your FP&A. Now, if you compare other live courses and programs available out there, you can see anywhere between $1,000 to $5,000. You can find programs on FP&A. Some of them are pretty elaborate. Some of them are very theoretical. You may or may not necessarily get practical exposure with those kind of courses. But when Asif and I were curating this course, our first focus was that if we are to hire an FP&A analyst today in our team, if Asif and I have to hire an FP&A manager, how quickly can we get this person ready to start working with us? That is the premise that we kept in our mind and curated FP&A Masterclass. So you will get 16 hours of live coaching, both from Asif and me, 20 plus practical case discussions, group discussions in the classroom environment, FP&A interview prep secrets module, which is a training program that we had curated just to prepare for interviews and understand what kind of different questions are asked. FP&A resume guide, how can you make certain tweaks in your resume to increase the chances of that getting your FP&A call? All of these things are specifically covered as part of the Masterclass module. Value easily worth over $1,000. Apart from this, you will also get access to our foundations course, which you can complete even before the Masterclass starts. It's a self-paced course. You will also get our resume preparation and interview secrets modules, which I already mentioned, that easily worth more than 5,000 rupees. Then you will also get access to our monthly mastermind calls. once we complete the masterclass, we have designed it in such a way that after you are completing the masterclass, you will be part of our alumni group. And in alumni group, we keep conducting monthly mastermind calls where we bring in expert speakers. So last month, we brought a FP&A tool providers who gave a tool demo within 1 hour. Okay, then we got CFOs, we got experts to share certain insights as well. All these are part of our mastermind calls, along with Asif and me being present there to address any questions, any Q&A that you might have in the session. Yeah. So all these put together, easily worth over $1,000. Easily worth over $1,000. But what and how this has benefited our students? Like I mentioned, there are tons and tons of testimonials. We've trained more than 300 students in the masterclass format, and probably more than 250 students in the launchpad format. So you can see all these testimonials on our websites as well. So don't take our word for it. Check with our students and and then believe us. Okay. So for masterclass, okay. Now, if you are somebody who thinks you are ready to take that leap into FP&A roles, you're serious about it, you want to be ready. See, opportunity also comes to people who are ready, right? So readiness is the first step that you need to build. So if you feel that you are ready to take firm steps on FP&A, then we would definitely recommend FP&A Masterclass to you, which covers a lot of things. Apart from that, you will also get access to our jobs group, okay, where we keep adding, we will keep sharing our FP&A jobs as well as part of our alumni network. Now, the next batch of FP&A Masterclass is starting on March 9th, which is a Saturday, starts at 9 a.m. IST. So 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. IST. So 4 weeks is all the commitment that we require from you. And Asif and I have made it with over 2 decades of our FP&A experience. We have made it so seamless and simple for you to cover. 4 weeks is all the commitment that we need for you to progress in FP&A. Okay. Generally, the FP&A Masterclass is priced at $347. $347. But today, since all of you are here, have been patient with us to understand a lot of things about FP&A, so we are running a special promotion, and this is valid only for the next 24 hours. Okay. And the masterclass is available for $297. $297 only. Yeah. I would say look at the value of this program and not the price. Asif and I are not here to sell this thing to you. So you are the best judge of what value you can get from us, and you can take that call on your own. But the special price is valid for the next 24 hours. And we will now put the link in the chat box. Whoever wants to look at the details of it and enroll, the link will be valid for 24 hours. You can look at it. The coupon code will be valid for 24 hours. The course will be available till March 9th for you to enroll. So, but make sure that you take the benefit of any early bird discount that we are offering you. Okay. And if you have any questions on the masterclass, if you have any questions on this, please feel free to reach out to us or DM me or Asif on LinkedIn as well. We are always available to address your questions. But my sincere recommendation would be that you take benefit of this. When we started our FP&A career, all of this was not available. LinkedIn was not available. Courses were not available. These things are not taught to you in your CA, CMA, all these things, all these courses. They are not teaching you all of these things in you. Highly practical, experience-oriented content is what we bring to you. Okay, so that's what FP&A Masterclass is all about. Cool. Asif, I think we can now open the floor for questions. If they have anything about today's presentation, if they have anything about...
Before we do that,
Yes.
I just wanted to add, so we've been doing this for 2 years now. So this is not the first time we're doing this. And this is a 9th batch. So we typically do 1 batch every quarter, right? Mostly it's 1 batch every quarter. So we've been doing this for 1.5, 2 years. And this batch 9 is not just the curriculum, but it has gone through 9 cycles or 8 cycles of refinement. So we make sure that we take feedback of whoever has participated in the batch and act on that feedback. So this is now a very well refined curriculum, which has been possible over the last 2 years. So it's not something that we've come up overnight and we are here teaching with that. It's been there for 2 years, and it has gone through a lot of refinement over the last 2 years. So with that, I think we can take questions. So let's take the questions in the chat box. So any discount for the 8 weeks FP&A launchpad? So just in case if you are interested in the 8 weeks FP&A launchpad, yes, there is a discount code which I will.
I've just put it in the chat box. Will you be
Yeah.
able to see? Are you able to see it?
So you can get a 10% discount on launchpad if you're interested in the recorded version. Uh, so yeah, let's put the chat code.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have 10 years of experience. Can I transition into FP&A now? So Dhaval, should I take that or you want to go first?
Sorry, what is the question, Asif?
So I'll take this and then you can add. So the question
Yeah.
is, I have 10 years of experience. Can I now transition to FP&A? So I'll not be, I'll be very realistic here. So transitioning from any career to a new career after 10 years is not going to be easy. It's not just FP&A. It can be anything, right? If you have worked in any career for 10 years, which is a long time, moving out will be very difficult and challenging. However, it's not impossible. So if you are if you prepare yourself and if you take all the steps, there's still a possibility for you to be able to transition, but it's not going to be very straightforward. It's going to take time, and you may also have to come down on your designation, maybe one level down, take a pay cut for a couple of years. But in the long run, if you feel FP&A is going to be your choice, or it's going to be the area of your interest, you will make that up easily over the next 5 years. I've seen people work in accounting and get stuck in one role, one type of a role for 7 years. They take they do not a pay cut, but a cut in the designation. So maybe they were manager in accounting. They join as a senior analyst in FP&A. So they take a cut in the designation. Maybe the pay is almost the same or maybe slightly higher. But over the long term, they get back to a senior role and then they make it up uh, versus what they must have done while they've if they had stayed in one role for the another 10 years. Okay, so that was on that. Uh, Thank you for the insightful overview. I have a couple of questions. Is it valuable to learn financial modeling? What are the reputable courses? Critical thinking as integral part of FP&A. How can one develop critical thinking skills? So I'll take the first one. So financial modeling is an important skill, and there are several courses that you can take. We also offer one financial modeling specifically for FP&A. So there are financial modeling courses available. FP&A Masterclass, we won't go into the details of financial modeling. We'll more talk about the functional aspects like budgeting, forecasting, management reporting, presentations, data storytelling, business partnering. So we'll talk more about the functional aspects rather than Excel and financial modeling. But to answer your question, if you are not, if you don't know financial modeling, highly recommended you take one course either from us, from me, or from somebody else. So there are other certificates available on financial modeling like CFI, FMI, so you can explore those as well. Critical thinking is an integral part of FP&A. How can one develop critical thinking skills? So critical thinking is more of a soft skill and you develop over time. So more you work in FP&A role or any other senior role, you will be faced with a lot of problems, challenges, and you will figure out ways. You'll find out ways to be able to solve those. So it's more you learn on the job. You learn on the on rather than taking
Yeah.
courses. So you can take courses which can give you some structures, but you mostly learn all those skills while you are on the job.
I can add a point on this. Once you start working in an industry, okay, and also um, and understand the nuances of how does that industry make money. Okay, that is where you will be able to also kind of visualize the problems beforehand. You know, that is when your critical thinking will come into play. That if you are able to foresee a certain problem beforehand and then counsel the management about it, okay, or explain the business unit about it, business unit lead or anybody cross-functional team member about it. That is where the true finance partnering lies in. Okay, and this you will be able to do only if you truly understand the business and how the company is making money.
Mhm. So there's a question, will
Okay.
you issue a certificate after the completion of masterclass? So answer is yes, will definitely get. If you complete the masterclass either live, I think 75% attendance live, and just in case if you miss the live session, you have to make sure you watch the recording. Somebody will check from the back end that you completed the recording, and once you have ensured that, you will get a certification.
Yeah. Cool. So next question is, what are the other FP&A tools using AI and MLs? So, I mean, to be honest, Asif and I are not an AI and ML expert.
Yeah.
Okay, but what we know for sure is that there are tools available who can use AI and ML for certain part of the function. Like if you are relying for, let's say, for example, revenue forecast, right? So if you want to predict revenue forecast, and if you're relying heavily on the past data, and you want a strong tool to, um, analyze the past data and then prepare projections for your future numbers, come up with a level of predictive analysis, then maybe AI and ML will work into play. Otherwise, they can be used for automation. Okay, and there are a number of AI and ML it's a wide application, right? So there are a number of ways you can use it for automation, and uh, automation of reportings, automation of repetitive work. All of those places, FP&A tools, I mean AI and ML can be integrated with FP&A tools. If that answers your question. Okay. Do you have other courses? I'm a finance manager. Fadi, I would suggest please reach out to me on LinkedIn. We can understand your need, and then we can guide you to the right course available. We run a lot of courses on finance and FP&A, so we can suggest you the right course. How do we switch from R to FP&A? See, Praful, don't think about it from an R to FP&A standpoint, right? So there could be any different function that you could be in AR, you could be in accounting, you could be in any function, but you want to work in FP&A. You will have to find the closest bridge to FP&A. So if your work is too transaction focused, then how can you first get to the next level where your work becomes a little bit more analytical? Okay, where your analysis focused, and then the next step would be to get into an FP&A role where you're also doing the overall analysis or the overall FP&A set of activities. So I think there are a couple of steps that you can take. If one thing that has worked for me is that as long as I'm displaying internal readiness, okay, by that I'll tell you, for example, on one of the occasions when my CFO wanted me to take on a certain role, okay, he knew that I was already studying. He knew that I was already preparing for that kind of a role, because I'd asked him for certain courses from the company's training budget. I had done some courses, so he knew he had got that message. I was ready for that role, and then when that other controller who was working, when he left the company, he immediately called me and said that, hey, this guy is leaving. Would you be able to take on that role? I'll bring a junior under you, and he'll be able to support you. I said, yes, why not? Right. So sometimes your readiness will first determine that whether you are able to actually transition to an FP&A role or no. Yeah.
Right.
And see, when
So
yeah.
go ahead. Sorry, I thought you
Sorry, just
continued.
one last sentence. So when we talk about finance as a profile, right, there could be hundreds of different kind of profiles. But as and when you get senior, you will need to have two broad levels of understanding. One is your commercial aspects, the other one is compliance aspects. You need to know your financial statements, your notes to accounts, statutory, internal audit, taxes, all of that stuff is compliance aspect. The other side is the commercial aspect, where you need to understand revenue, gross margins, profitability, all of these things. So whenever you want to transition to a finance manager or a CFO or a controller or a director kind of a role, there's absolutely no harm in learning both the sides of things, right? You have to be ready with both the sides of things. You never know when you're working as a controller and you're working only on accounting aspects of the company, but there's a vacancy in the commercial side of things. Okay, you can immediately say that, hey, I've done this course. I know what is budgeting. I have a fair understanding of it. I may have not worked on it, but I have a fair understanding of what a budget is. I've seen examples, I've talked to people, I've taken courses on this. Give me that chance, I'll look at it. That is when you might sound a little bit more convincing than just saying that I've been controller for 5 years now. I need something new. So put me in FP&A. Sorry, that may not be the company's need at that point in time.
Okay, one question I see is what are your most recommended FP&A tool and why? So if you go to a doctor and ask him, okay, give me medicine without looking at, without asking you any questions or without doing any scans or doing any diagnostic, right? So it's like you are asking me what FP&A tool is without looking at the company size, without looking at the industry, without looking at all of the 100 things that need to go into while. So if you give me all of those answers, I'll give you, okay, these are the two best tools, but not possible without doing the diagnostic. So there are hundreds of tools available out there, and might be some tools might be good for you, some may not be. So it will require a thorough understanding of what your business is, uh, what your requirements are, where are you in terms of the life cycle of the organization, life cycle of the FP&A, and it requires like 10 different diagnostics that need to happen to be able to get to, like, okay, these are, after doing all of that, these are the three tools that you should consider, and you can take those demos and then decide which one is the best. So not possible to answer that without doing the diagnostic. Can you
Okay,
explain what? Yeah, go ahead, add.
I'll take one question. Does the FP&A role in domestic company and shared services center have different advantages? Heard a lot of times that shared services is just transition of work. You see, shared services used to be just back office accounting 10 years ago. Okay. Today's shared services is modern. So there could be a FP&A manager sitting in the US, but his team of FP&A analysts could be sitting in Mumbai, Bangalore, or Manila, or wherever the shared services center is set up, right? So if you are thinking shared services or working in a global shared services environment is something which is brainless, you are making a big, big mistake. Okay. So hear me out on this. Shared services is the future. If you have seen, 500 top companies in the US set up their shared services in India, in the next 10 years, you will see 50,000 US companies, European companies, Australian companies set up their shared services in India, and you will keep watching all of this grow, and you will just be a bystander. So don't have any misconceptions about shared services. Yes, you may start in a shared services with an accounting role, but there is absolutely nothing that stops you from moving into a analysis and an FP&A kind of a role. I have worked in a shared services center where my role was fully analysis, fully FP&A, zero accounting.
Yeah.
Okay, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and it's not that when you get into it you cannot get out, right? You, once you do that for 1 or 2 years, if you feel
Absolutely.
that you need to move on to a business facing role which is more close to the business, if you like that, I mean, if you're wanting that, that experience of COE or shared service will definitely help you get to the next role or the next step in your career. Okay, so I think I don't see any questions in the last like 20 minutes. Have I missed
No,
anything?
there are some I can read out. Maybe the comments are not visible. Some you can see, probably some I can see. Okay. How can I convince the potential hiring manager in a small company about the value of FP&A when historically the focus has been on reconciliations and accurate financial statements? Okay. See, I think the best way to convince about the value of FP&A is to ask questions. Are you selling your products profitably? Are we rendering service in a profitable way? If you ask these questions, they may not have a concrete answer. Okay? But if you can demonstrate that, hey, I worked out the product profitability for your this product of that company, okay, and see your product, what you're selling is not necessarily profitable, or how we can enhance the profitability. That is where you will be able to convince the small business owner, Vichamat, about the value of what FP&A can bring to the table. Yeah, there is a comment about CFI's FMVA course. See, FMVA course again is largely focused on modeling. There are some elements of FP&A covered in there, basic FP&A covered in there, but not necessarily elaborate case studies and group discussions like we do. But nonetheless, as a course, FMVA is a good course and a good to have.
I can add. So I have taken FMBA, I think 4 or 5 years back. So it's a good certificate to do, but keep in mind it's a broader certification, not very FP&A specific. So they have covered a lot of roles in a very short time. So they're targeting investment banking, equity research, private equity, FP&A. So maybe you'll see one or two modules of FP&A in there, but it's not a detailed FP&A course. But nonetheless, a good certificate or good certification to have if you are interested in all of these things that I mentioned.
Okay. So there's a question on can you please explain what is supply chain finance? Sure. So see, in the last decade or so, what people have done, large multinationals have done is they have looked at the entire supply chain, their suppliers, okay, their raw material suppliers, their suppliers, and then they have looked at the distributors and their consumers as well. Okay. And then they came up with ways to make their life easier, to give them cheaper finance. Like if you are able to make your supplier's life a little bit easier in terms of finance, they would be incentivized to supply to you in a much better and a cost-effective way. If you are making your customer's life easier, okay, then they will be incentivized to buy your products in a much easier way. So that is what broadly supply chain finance is all about. You look at the entire supply chain, and then you look at how you make how you give supply, how you make finance available to each of these players in the supply chain in a much more easier and a cost-effective way, so that they are incentivized to either supply to you or buy from you. That is what broadly supply chain is about. Okay, Bhavna says, I've been part of.
Yeah, go ahead. I can come after you.
Yeah. So Bhavna says, I have been part of record to report accounting, and I am now looking for an FP&A role. So I'm well versed with soft skills, accounting experience. Disadvantage of not having only masters and not chartered. So you don't need to be a chartered accountant for FP&A roles. Masters is good enough. Okay. Like again, I would say, just let's slightly zoom out and observe this situation, right? So to become successful at finance roles, okay, one needs to have, it's not just course, right? Just because somebody is a chartered accountant, he can become a CFO. Absolutely not true. Okay. So one needs to have a solid base qualification. That can be your CA, CPA, CMA, MBA, finance, whatever it may be, whatever is available in your geography. Okay. On top of that, you will have to have experience on both compliance side and commercial side or FP&A side. That is when you will be able to carve out a successful finance career for yourself, a senior finance career for yourself. Okay. In this, there are multiple steps. So even if you have an MBA finance, it's not necessary that you require a chartered accountancy or any other degree for that matter. Your MBA finance is good enough. However, if you feel that you lack accounting, or if you lack accounting standards, there are books available, there are courses available where just you can learn about accounting standards and you will get that confidence to analyze the financial statements in a much better way, right? So that is what you need to look at. If you already have an MBA finance and you have exposure of certain number of years in a certain industry, why not leverage that industry experience to target an FP&A role in that same sector? Okay, that will increase your chances to get that FP&A role rather than trying out completely new course and starting from scratch. Okay.
There's another question is CMA degree helpful in FP&A? So I think you covered that, right? So if you don't have a
Yes.
base qualification, and then CMA is a good base qualification, but if you already have a CA or MBA or a master's, then probably it will not be as useful. But still, if you are interested, if that is something that
Yeah.
you want to do,
CMA
yeah.
CMA is comparatively higher analysis focused compared to chartered accountancy, where chartered accountancy is more compliance focused. But is CMA your sure shot ticket to FP&A? Not necessarily.
Yeah. So if you have to choose between say CA, CMA, CFA, all the C's, CMA is probably the best option if you want to go for a longer qualification that we talked about, which might be a year, 2 years of study and examinations.
Okay, so there's one more question. So do we need core accounting and deep functional knowledge to use this in FP&A? So you don't need core accounting knowledge, but however, you need some level of accounting knowledge to work in FP&A. because FP&A is more commercially focused, you're talking about gross profits, you're talking about gross margins. Even without accounting, you will be able to understand it. But sometimes when you have to do a deeper analysis, you may have to, get your hands dirty by digging into the accounts. Yeah. So that is when you will need to have some basic understanding of the debits and the credits, what are expenses, what are revenue accounts, accrual concept. Some basic accounting knowledge is required. However, you don't need like deep functional knowledge of accounting to be successful at FP&A.
Yeah. So I can add, so you should be able to read accounting statements and read reports rather. So you need not have to prepare them. So preparing them is not, so accounting, they prepare the P&L, balance sheet, cash flow, right? You don't have to be that good at accounting that you need to prepare the statements, but you should be able to read them because that's what FP&A does every day. And having accounting, good accounting is always I mean, is always giving you an edge, which we already discussed. But yeah, you should be able to at least read the statements.
Okay, so there's one more question. Is FP&A Launchpad appropriate for someone who doesn't have FP&A exposure but wants to switch to FP&A? Absolutely. See, Launchpad course is also designed to give you good understanding of FP&A along with making you confident about interviews and all of that stuff. So you can go for the Launchpad course. The only advantage of Masterclass is that we are available live to address your questions. There are more case studies being discussed. Plus, you get access to the alumni groups and the job group. Okay. So if you're made up your mind that yes, in the next 6 months, I really want to get an FP&A role, then Masterclass would be a better option. If you are still at that stage where you want to get some basic understanding of FP&A first, and then decide whether you want to work in FP&A or no, then Launchpad is a better option for it. Okay, are there any more questions? Is it possible to share the presentation? We'll share the recording with you. You can go through the recording as well. So if you want, we can share the slides also. It should be okay.
Yeah, any questions you missed? Maybe we can take one more question. If you can bring it up in the chat, we'll take that and we'll wrap it up. Yeah, Dhawal, you were saying something.
Yeah. No, I was just saying that wherever you registered, I'm sure you might have got an email as well. So once the recording is ready, so we will send the email notification to you that the recording is ready and you can access it just in case if you missed any part of it.
All right. So if there are no
Great.
questions, we'll wrap up today. Just one thing I wanted to, I think there's something in the chat. Will your masterclass help completely to take a forecasting? So to answer that question, it will not go into detail of financial modeling. So financial modeling is altogether a separate program that you need to do. So except financial modeling, it will cover budgeting, forecasting, management reporting, business storytelling, presentations, business partnering. So those the 4 modules that we discussed, that's a part of the curriculum. Financial modeling is completely a different topic altogether, just like Power BI or Excel. So it's not possible to club it with FP&A, but you can do so if you want to build your FP&A portfolio of skills, this masterclass would be, or the launchpad would be the first place. Then you can do financial modeling, Power BI, and add more skills to it. Do we get a chance to have a practical knowledge? So all the examples, the 20 plus examples that we have curated, they are from real life case situations. So me and Dhaval have both worked in about 5 different industries and maybe 5 different companies. So based on whatever experience we have gathered, we have modified those examples for a classroom discussion. So it will not have like thousands of rows of Excel like you see in real life, but it will have 200 rows, which will give you a flavor of what happens in real life.
Fantastic. So exciting times ahead. And yes, Masterclass is completely live interactive. You can ask your questions anytime in the session. Fantastic. So I think exciting times ahead. So a lot of developments are happening in the FP&A space. If you are somebody who has not explored FP&A space yet, I would suggest that you at least, start understanding about this space, because there's a lot of development that is coming. Because CFO's role is getting complex day by day, and people need team members who can analyze stuff. Yeah, that is where FP&A roles come into play. Apart from that, I think Asif and I are available. You can DM us on LinkedIn if you have any questions about FP&A, about your finance career in general, about Masterclass, whatever you want to ask. Feel free to DM us on LinkedIn, and we would be happy to answer your questions. Do stay in touch. Do remain on the WhatsApp group for any further notifications of any other sessions that we are coming up with. A lot of developments are happening. So stay in touch. And send us a connection request on LinkedIn. We would be happy to have you as a connection. And yeah, see you in the next session. And if you're enrolled for the masterclass or any of the Launchpad course or any of the courses, then see you inside that course. And let's stay in touch.
Yeah. I want to add, I have exhausted my LinkedIn connections a long time back. So if I don't accept your connection, doesn't mean that I am not wanting to accept, but just that I've exhausted the limit. So you can email me just in case if you are having any questions, because I may not be able to accept your LinkedIn connection because of the limitations. I'm just putting in my email. Just email me, and I usually reply once a week to all the emails. All right. So I think we can wrap it up. Thank you so much, guys, for joining, and hopefully you will have a great career, and you'll do things. I mean, you'll do well. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, everyone. All the best.
Yeah. So I've shared the contact. I've shared the email, and which you can use. All right. Thank you so much. Bye bye.